talk about President Obama. Do you think he's a socialist?
No, not technically, I suppose, because socialism usually means the government ownership of the means of production. The pattern he's following is much more like that of the fascists, where the government leaves the means of production in private hands and the politicians tell them what to do. And that's much more politically viable because after the government forces the private industry to do something and it turns out disastrously, you can always haul the people from private industry up before congressional committees, denounce them on television and so forth, leaving out the fact that it was you who forced them to do what they did.
And this is the way you see, for example, the health care reforms that were passed.
Well, I was thinking actually about the financial reforms and particularly the housing collapse. That the people who, Barney Frank in the House, Senator Chris Dodd in the Senate, were the people who pushed for all kinds of mortgage lending standards to be reduced, making mortgage lending enormously more risky than it had ever been before. And when all of that collapsed, they then summoned all the leaders of financial institutions up before their committees and spent hours denouncing them and so forth on nationwide television. I mean, they understand that the best defense is a good offense. And so this is great political theater. It has nothing to do with reality.
Well, what about the private sector, though? I mean, you know, it is true, isn't it, that there were lots of kind of risky bets that were being made with a lot of money, which was private money, certainly, but it would have a public effect. There are lots of kind of external effects.
There was some of that. More often, the risk was the lenders. One of the reasons lenders don't care whether you're really a good risk is they may sell the mortgage to you, and then they sell it. They make out the mortgage to you, then they sell it to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and the risk now is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's risk.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about how you see President Obama as a leader, because there were certainly very high hopes. And I think they were broadly shared about him as a leader. And yet, how do you think he's turned out?
Terrible. But those hopes weren't based on anything he'd actually done. I mean, if you look at, I was telling my wife about the irony of Martin Luther King's thing that you should be judged by the content of your character rather than the color of your skin. If he'd been judged by the content of his character, he would never have made it through the primaries.